One of the great debates of our time has always been, well, not always, but recently, has been global warming. And this year, I think many of us here in the Lakes area are asking, where is this global warming and can we get a little bit of it right now? The fact of the matter is global warming is still up for debate. While it's true, most scientists say that the Earth is warming, most of these scientists are basing those numbers on data, raw data collected from all over the country. But there might be a problem with some of that data, and an example was right here in Detroit Lakes. Back in 2007, several different environmental groups began going around the country checking the various different weather monitoring stations there are in the country. Detroit Lakes, out at the 1340 KDLM studios, is one of the official weather monitoring stations for the National Weather Service and other weather monitoring programs. And what they noticed is that we had a spike in temperatures here in Detroit Lakes. Because of that spike in temperatures, they were pretty curious to try to find out if they could determine exactly what and why that spike in temperatures in fact occurred. Well, they did go to the location there at 1340 KDLM Studios to try to find out exactly why the temperature upped. And what they found out was at the time the temperature increases began at that location, they noticed that the studio had moved some air conditioner units over to a different part of the building. And the exhaust from those AC units were now being picked up by the weather monitoring equipment. Also, the weather monitoring equipment had begun to sink into the swamp behind the studio. And because of a placement of a screen to protect a thermometer in case of a potential mercury spill into that wetland, that had also not been properly placed the way it should be for monitoring current and accurate weather. Now, Detroit Lakes is not the only example of that. There were also weather monitoring stations out in California, for example, that were once built out in locations that were far away from a community. Now, asphalt and buildings have encroached on it, once again creating an artificial heat wave. Now, since 2009, that problem has been corrected here in Detroit Lakes, and the weather readings are becoming much more accurate. Also, much closer to what they always used to be. And another thing when people talk about the weather, and it just doesn't get as cold as it used to, or we just don't get as much snow as we used to. Well, I don't know if that's really accurate. We've had 3 of the top 5 largest floods in the Red River Valley in the last 6 years. And I know we've had lots of snow in the years we've been here. It's just last year wasn't a lot of snow, and 4 or 5 years ago there wasn't a lot either. Still plenty of snow out there right now. And when it comes to temperatures, a lot of people don't realize the wind chill readings. I've heard some people say that when the wind chill never gets as low as it used to be. Here's why. The calculation for wind chill was changed. It's been changed several times. There's not a universal way to calculate wind chill. It is an approximate mathematical equation to try to demonstrate what weather conditions do on exposed skin and on the human body when there's lots of wind and it's pretty gosh darn cold out there. It's more of a guideline than a rule. Canada, for instance, has a different wind chill mathematical equation than the United States and Britain. And it's been upgraded, changed in the 60s, changed again in the 70s, and changed again in 2001. The reality is when you hear 30 or 40 below wind chill, that's pretty close to those old 60 below degree temperatures. I'm not saying global warming isn't happening. It could be happening. But I think it's got a lot more to do with the world's natural rotation and environment than any car you or I are driving.